I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it in, check it out. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it in, check it out.
So we're going to jump right in today. So today I'm here with Sonny Schaar, that's correct? That's how you pronounce it?
Correct.
Yes, and April Lish.
Yep.
Haha, two names in one. And funny story about how we ended up here today. I schedule these interviews and I got really excited because I had two people who wanted to schedule on the same day, and that worked well for me because I only had to put on makeup once and, get ready. In fact, I even layered this morning thinking that I can look like I'm wearing two different outfits. And I arrived to work this morning and I have this email from April saying, your other interview is my sister. So that is so funny. I didn't know you were sisters. Tell me are there other siblings I should know about?
Just the two of us.
Just the two of us. Okay. So were you born and raised here in New Holstein, or?
Yep. Yes, we were.
Okay.
Yep, born and raised. I'm older.
You're older. April mentioned you're normally the one who's timely.
I am not. Normally.
I'm normally the one who's timely.
It was like 10:09, and I was like, I should leave already. I'm like, okay, it's up the street. You don't need to leave 21 minutes early.
I love that because I actually strongly subscribe to if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late.
Right.
So
right. I like to live by that theory too, but typically a little bit.
It doesn't work out in practice.
No.
So you've lived here your whole lives. You went to school here.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe you can take this one at a time. Did you leave, come back? What was your story about staying in New Holstein?
You go first. I never left.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated and started going to college, and then started working at a nursing home as a CNA. I was going to go to school for nursing, and then I just decided that wasn't for me. And then just stayed. Yeah. It always worked out that I had great jobs right here, and I didn't have a reason to leave.
That's wonderful.
So, and I met my husband here too.
Okay.
We worked together in high school, and he left for a little bit, but Appleton left, not really left, and then came back and.
Cool. So you went to high school, you attended high school with your husband as well?
Yep.
You knew each other then?
Yep, we worked together.
Did you have a crush on each other then?
I didn't know him until we started working together at Southtown.
Oh, okay. See, I'm from such a tiny town. You knew everyone 4 grades above and 4 grades below.
I knew of him because of church, because he was a grade older than me, but our paths didn't really cross until we started working together. So
cool.
Yeah.
And you?
I lived in Fond du Lac for a little bit during one of my 3 or 4 college stunts.
Oh, me too.
So I lived in Fond du Lac with some friends, and then on college round 3, I lived in St. Cloud because I was going to school in Fond du Lac and working at Schwartz's. So it was kind of that middle point. Mm-hmm. So I could go 15 minutes to school and 10 minutes to work, and didn't have to keep crossing paths and stuff all day and stuff like that. So so I lived in St. Cloud for a handful of years, and
then you came back for your current role?
Yep. I was working at the credit union already when I still lived in St. Cloud, and one morning I took a different way to work, with all the whole 3 different options. And I saw and I saw something, I was like, oh, I should really look at that. So then I moved back to Holstein. So
cool.
Yeah, it was just way more convenient. Go home at lunch, and I'd have to go I used to sit at her house at lunch, and which is all, it's fine and all, but
it's so nice to be close to family like that.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny that I never knew you were sisters, and here we are, 2 different organizations. So you've lived here all those years. You have to have favorite things in the community. You're both connected with some different things, so I'd be interested in what your favorites are.
My favorites, we have great parks. Everyone says we have great parks. No one can deny that. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite events probably is the Holstein Picnic. I think Civic Park is so underutilized, so I just love seeing it come about for the weekend and activity and bustling. So that's probably one of my favorite events.
Yeah, that's a great answer. From here, we watch the setup develop, and it is exciting. There's this energy around, and I think even they get out that big crane and take an image of all of it, and it's just the coolest community.
It will be Sunday or Monday. I'm like, the trucks are in town.
Yeah.
And you just watch it come about for the week. It's exciting to see because it's so it's a beautiful park, and it's just, the kids get to play it and stuff for school, which is great, but it's just so underutilized.
I agree. That what's the word for that?
Bandstand.
Yeah, the bandstand thing. Fabulous.
Yeah.
Why do we not have performers? That's another discussion.
I
Anyway.
hit on that today.
I'm with Sonny. I really like the picnic. I like we enjoy watching that together, and now my kids do too. Like they look forward to it.
Yeah.
But I guess the other, I don't know, this is gonna kind of sound stupid, but where Quick Trip is, because that's where our dad's station was before Quick Trip
That doesn't sound stupid at all.
bought it, and so I mean, there's a lot of memories on that corner for us because we grew up there.
Yeah.
Our grandma lived there.
When you come out of Quick Trip, like there was always like when it was a station, there was like the top and the bottom. And we would come in like the top driveway and you'd come out the bottom because it was really hard to come out the top.
You never went out the top.
So now the Quick Trip it's a little closer. It's not quite at where the top was, but it's closer. So it's kind of like that daring move. Like as you come out, like
Dad always told us you never go out the top, and
you're gonna get hit by a car coming around the corner.
Yep.
That
So,
is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, so was it weird watching that get built? And was that station still there right before they built it? Was
They
the
knocked
physical station still there,
Yep,
right?
they knocked it down and then built
Okay.
rather quickly, I would
Yeah, it
say.
was pretty quick. It sat empty for a little bit.
Yep, but
Yeah.
we watched though the day
watched.
they took it down.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Was it emotional?
it was, but it wasn't. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a nice ending.
Yeah, it wasn't
Dad.
as bad as what we had. We expect because all of a sudden like she drove past and I was like, oh, I'm like, how was it? She's like, oh, not bad. I was like, okay, really? And she's like, not bad. So I'm like, well, come get me. So we sat by CRW and like we just watched. And we're like,
There goes Grandma's living room.
but
Oh my God.
it was the best thing. Like it could have sat there empty and broken for years once he decided to retire.
Right.
So for him to be able to, lock the door the last time and walk away, and it didn't have to sit empty, broken windows, and not an empty building.
Watch years of that
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
you get to watch progress. And
Yeah. So it was good
It was
in
exciting.
that sense.
I mean,
Because
yeah.
it didn't, like, that was our biggest fear, that we would just watch it sit, broken windows, overgrown, and
Absolutely.
that wasn't how it was. So that was good. We were really happy to see that.
That is
Very
so
happy.
cool.
Yeah.
What a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And I make fun of small towns, and I do it myself for, and this is all over America, but I think in Wisconsin we're really bad about it. Oh yeah, you just turn where Old Johnson's shop used to be.
Right.
I saw directions that said where someone shot the buck in the 50s.
Oh.
I'm not joking. On a community website, it was like, if you want to go see the elk herd, take a right where this person shot this buck in the 50s. Well, you have to be a real old timer to understand how to get there.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's now Quick Trip. You take a right at Quick Trip, not at the shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I always ask, and I got interested about this morning once I knew you were sisters, if maybe you give each other book suggestions or read in the same vein, or if you're total opposites.
No.
Do you have favorite books?
I am a strong audiobook person.
Really?
I'm a strong audiobook person, so I use Libby a lot and Audible.
Cool. I'm so glad you used that.
I like memoirs,
Uh-huh.
like people's sad stories about their life.
Like the Glass Castle.
Yes, love that
Angela's
one.
Ashes and
Yes,
stuff
love those. But then I also like Class Mom and You've Been Volunteered by Lori
Oh.
Gilman.
like that. Okay.
I think because my kids, when that first came out, my kids were that age.
Uh-huh.
So it was like, oh yeah, I get this. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, we're
I can belt out
opposites.
like a book in a day.
Yeah, it takes
Really?
me like
Oh,
3
yeah.
months.
Yeah.
And what's your style of reading?
I like Danielle Steele, Emily Giffin.
Okay.
I just read The Banker's Wife.
Who's that by?
Christina Elger. Oh, it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you like realistic fiction though,
Yeah.
and you're more of a nonfiction. You like people's stories.
Yes. Yep.
An all-time favorite?
You brought it up, but I did really enjoy The Glass Castle.
Yeah.
And then I
I
think
did too.
there was a follow-up to that too, like I think The Broken Horse or something like that from her sister's point of view. And it was, those I read really fast. I mean,
I never knew about the follow-up. That's so interesting.
it's
Because
something like that.
memoirs to me are so interesting because it's one person's
Yep.
assessment of what they're, perception. And so I always kind of question the authority of the voice. Is this person telling? So I would gravitate more toward fiction or somebody else telling somebody's story. Like nonfiction where somebody, when somebody tells their story, I'm like, I'm suspicious. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, so was the sister's
was-
perspective different?
A little bit because she was younger. So it was her older siblings like were taking care of her and stuff, and and then it got into like where their lives split. So it was interesting. I did that. We were on vacation and I wasn't the one driving, so I listened to that. I think I listened to that whole book when we were gone. So it was good though.
You don't listen while you drive?
Not when
that too
my
dangerous?
kids are in the car.
Yeah.
It depends on what we're listening to.
You don't want to get lost in
Right,
the-
right.
Yeah.
So, but
Well, that's funny.
yeah, and then I also really liked David Spade's books.
I love him.
I
He's so
I
funny.
really enjoyed his books. Those I listened to pretty fast too.
Yeah.
And he's the one. I like it when the author is the one reading to you, so you're hearing his voice or the other people's voices, and you know that it's them. Like I really like that.
Check out for your kids Shel Silverstein doing any of his, because he says it how he intended it when he wrote it, and he is so performative. I love it. But
Awesome.
cool. And did you say a favorite? I don't.
You know, I'll read a book and like we could talk about it next week, and I'll be like, oh, I don't really remember that part of the book. I'm like, like I'm really into it when I read it, and all of a sudden, like to talk about it a few weeks later, I'm like, no, I can't remember. I'm like, I don't remember that.
I do that too. I do that, but I think it's maybe reading so many, and then I do find it like one every 2 years will hit me and stick with me.
I did the Daniel Steele. I really, really, really liked The Spy.
Okay. See, then if you're remembering things, that's in the
And then
list.
after reading The Banker's Wife, I'm like, well, maybe I do like a bit more of a mystery in a book than I realized I liked.
Oh,
I feel like you've said that before.
Yeah.
Like you like the
Like
more
I
of a
wouldn't like go
mystery
grab a
thing.
mystery. Like I would never come in and be like, oh, I'm gonna grab a mystery. But like when I read a book that's mystery, I'm like, I really enjoy them.
Yeah,
Which I
that
should probably grab like a
plot-driven-
James Patterson or something, and then just try something
Just
different.
try something.
Yeah.
That's a librarian trick when
Yeah.
people come in and ask for books and they say they like, whatever, several authors, and then it's like, what do you like about it?
Yeah.
You know, is it the characters? Is it the way the plot moves? And so for you, maybe that underlying plot.
Right. And a lot of Danielle
pushing-
Steele's, a lot of hers do go back a bit in history, a lot in Europe and stuff like that. Many of them. So maybe there's more to it than like I really have ever thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun. We can explore that.
I do use Libby. I do like Libby. I love Libby. Like I love adding stuff. Like I'll see like a book posted somewhere, or like we'll go like like Target or Barnes and Noble, and I'll look at all of it. I'm like, well, I'm not buying a book.
Right.
Sorry.
I feel the same with the librarian. They were not paid to say this stuff.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm not. I'll buy the new Danielle Steele book. So otherwise I have to wait too long for it. Like otherwise I'm not like. And we pass that like my mom reads them, my aunt reads them, I have people at work who read them. So like it just travels.
Right. That's what I started thinking about this morning. Like if I'm interviewing sisters, are they going to have like you've shared?
I bet she's never read a Danielle Steele book in her life.
No, you and Mom read those, but that's not. I don't know that I've even ever tried.
Yeah.
You guys have talked about it. I'm like, I'm good. Maybe read it too.
I think I did when I was younger. I tried a couple of times, but at that time I think she was more like romance, and I wasn't really into.
Yeah. Some of them like there's times that like I do think because she's come out with a lot. Like she'll come out with probably the last 2 or 3 years she's come out with like 4 a year. It's too many for her. They're not good.
Yeah, I know. Because we purchase.
Yeah.
James Patterson is like one a month.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it just gets to a point like I'll read like, and I can usually like within the first few pages I'll be like, this isn't one of her. It's not one of her better ones.
Well, at that point they're not. They have
Yeah.
ghostwriters, and maybe they're using the same formula as the original author, but it's certainly not the original.
Yeah, and I have a checklist, and I'm actually going back, trying to recall if I've read all her books or not. So I highlight the ones I know I've read, and the other ones I'm like, and there's times I've read them before, where also I'll be like reading a book, and also I'll get to like, there'll be 10 pages left, and I'll be like,
I remember this!
I read this book before, but it takes until page 290 until it spurs, and I was like, so some of them like I'll start rereading, I'm like, nope, read it. So I'm trying to check off all of them to know if I've read all of them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty close, I'd say.
You can keep your reading history now as well. The library won't just do it by default, but you can keep your history of checkouts and stuff like that, which helps a lot of our patrons who come in and say, did I read that one? And if we scan it, it will come up and say, no, they've already checked it out.
And I think
you can still check it out.
Right. I started reading like Danielle Steele and V.C. Andrew books at an age that I probably should not have been reading Danielle Steele and V.C. Andrew books.
You must be the exact same generation, because I was reading V.C. Andrews way before I should have been.
Yeah.
Like the content so not appropriate
Yeah.
for a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah, I don't think I could read one now if I tried, but like,
Yeah.
the print's too small in those paperbacks,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. Well, you guys are voracious readers, it sounds like. The only other kind of personal question I usually ask, and then we'll split off, is if you could sit down for a meal with anyone, past or present, who would it be and what would be served? And I need to know what would be served because I'm obsessed with food.
So we talked about this last night a little bit. We did. So
Did you coordinate your answer?
no, I really like her answer, and I hope that I would be invited along. But
Your daughter would take it.
she probably would. I would do my Grandpa Schaar and Grandma Hobuck because they passed away.
One? No, I'm just kidding.
Two. They're same, you know.
Okay.
They maybe two separate meals. They passed away when I was like in third grade. So Sonny remembers them far more than I do, and because she's the oldest, she got more time with
Yeah.
with them. So I don't really remember, but I would have my grandma, our grandma, who is still living, her scalloped potatoes and ham because and our mom makes it now, but I don't know. There's something about eating it in the bowls that grandma had and
Yeah.
the little Tupperware like dessert pudding cups.
Oh,
that she
I
had
love
too.
those
Yeah,
Like with the little stem and the little,
Yes.
yep, like that's what I would have watching Wheel of Fortune. Because that's what I remember
That's
it
what
on.
you remember.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time at Grandma and Grandpa's house because our mom worked second shift and their house was attached to the station.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be uncommon for us to, I don't know, would we eat there? I don't really remember.
Just like after school.
After school or just
Yeah.
hanging out with Grandma and Grandpa too.
And well, the shop hours they were open 7, 8, well, and they were way longer at different points in history too. But up until, like, at least when our grandpa was still alive, shop hours were 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. And that was if you walked out the door right away at 6 o'clock. If
Right.
someone didn't come for something or something wasn't broken. So
or come to chat.
or come to
Yeah.
chat. It was like the barber shop of like Naholsting.
Yeah.
What year did your dad retire?
2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Just
Yep.
okay. I think we.
19 November of 18?
18 or 19.
What's his name?
Bruce
Bruce.
Schaar.
Okay, I'm pretty sure when we first moved to town, we had a vehicle issue at very late, and we were one of those like last minute customers. My husband walked across town, went, and he was very helpful after
Right.
close, and like charged us almost nothing and got us going again.
Right. And it was just what they did. Like
Yeah.
they weren't
Yeah.
they didn't tell people, like they didn't say no.
Right.
Well, I might explain a lot.
Must be going down their part. Right. That's us.
Yeah, sorry to get that.
Yeah, so it would be nothing for us. Like,
To spend time there.
yeah, and even like I remember like when we were, I don't even want to say little and stuff, but yeah, like my grandma would always make lunch, and like everyone would come in the house and eat lunch at the same time, and if like the bell rang that someone needed gas, they got up and went and got gas. So
Yeah.
it kind of carried through
I
for
remember that just a little bit.
for supper and stuff too. That like
Yeah.
it was very common for us to eat there.
Such a family business. Family.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, way before our time, like when it would be, I don't know who told the story. It must have been Dad recently or something. Like in the Cumsey days and stuff, like if it would be really cold and like when second shift would get done, like they would just drive over there and just start starting cars. Because I mean, the cars didn't have the same abilities at the time, so
Sure.
they just didn't start as easy when it was cold
Oh
and
my
stuff,
gosh.
like in those
Isn't it-
frigid temperatures. So like that was
They just waited.
very common, and I mean, way back in the day, I bet this. I mean, it was open till 9 or 10 o'clock at
Yeah.
night. Like that was just how communities ran and stuff.
It's so funny because as you're saying these things, like I identify some of those traits in both of you, and separately,
Yeah.
still,
Mhm.
and not knowing you were sisters, but being like the never saying no,
Yeah.
always being
I
so
just realized that now. I was like,
community oriented. Your names
Yeah.
are attached to so many different things, and that is the real, like those types of stories are exactly what I love and value about communities, small
Right.
communities. Like we take care of each other. That's
Yeah.
what it's about. So that's so cool. I'm sorry that I just
That
Yeah.
took it way far.
yeah, I took your answer and then stole it. But yeah,
That's our history.
It's a
I
great
mean-
answer, and now I feel like I know even more why.
yeah,
And then you have an answer that's apparently that she likes.
yeah. It's way like hers is like oh, it's so nice, and it is very very nice. And I love that. I kind of have the same answer, and I completely agree with her.
I hope we'd be invited to each other's.
I hope, yeah, I
Yeah.
can invite you. So I'm a huge Zach Brown fan, huge.
Okay.
Like
Is Zach Brown, he's a musician, right?
Yep, country.
Okay.
Huge.
Dad with pop culture.
Yep. Like 17 concerts in.
Oh,
Like a friend of, like we went to a concert one time, we're like,
In different countries.
yeah, we're like, this was really cool.
in different countries?
Well, Mexico.
Just Mexico, yeah.
You went to a Zach Brown concert in Mexico.
Yep.
You're like a super fan.
We might have been called groupies once or twice before. But for a way, like, we like to travel. So it was a way for us to explore new cities
Totally makes
and
sense.
stuff and have like a purpose to go there. To be like, oh, well, Zach's playing in Chicago. Let's go to, explore Chicago. Or Zach's playing in Atlanta. Let's go to Atlanta for the weekend. So it was just,
Zach Brown is a perfect dancer for you then.
yeah. So
And you need to sit, we should make this happen. Separate from the show. Like, this is
right. So I would probably definitely pick him just because, like, and even like, after his concerts, like we'll look up his music and we'll like read his lyrics and we're like, why do you think he wrote this, or did someone else write this, and why did they write this, and is it actually about their lives, and like.
I'm
I think
not the judge.
yeah.
There's a borderline obsession, but that's
Yeah.
it's a good thing. Good thing to be into. Is
We
music.
come, his style's changed a little bit in the last few years. So the last few concerts, the last concert we went to, I think it was right when him and his wife were getting divorced, and we're like, that was rough. Like you could like, he was like,
His music didn't become better.
It changed a bit.
Maybe darker.
It was a little darker. It was
Yeah.
deep. Yeah.
Yeah, I like an artist that's been tormented.
Yeah.
So that's What would you eat?
Well,
You must know what food he likes.
I have no idea what
No
food he
idea.
likes. I know. We have no idea what food he likes, actually.
Okay.
He's from the South, so probably Southern. So I love food, but I don't necessarily care what I eat. Like, we could go to dinner, and I could be like, just order for me. Like,
Really?
people who know me well enough they're gonna pick what I like. Yeah, like, there's
That's
times,
adventurous.
yeah, like, there's times, like, a group of us will go to dinner, and we're like, you can just order today. And then we'll just order and share everything. Because then we don't have to make a decision and just eat one thing.
I am a sharer.
So then
that's the only way I'll go. You can't even be my friend and go to a restaurant with me if you're not willing
Right.
to split.
And then, if we're on vacation and stuff, our theory is if we all go and we share, so we get,
You try 6 things instead of.
well, and then if there's 4 of us, then we get 2 meals and an appetizer. We can eat all 3 meals. Because if you eat too much, you can only eat like twice. So then we can eat more places if we share because we eat less.
We can be friends.
Yeah.
That is how I operate too.
Yeah.
It's like when I travel with people who operate like that so that we can try everything. I'm only here for 4 days. You can only eat so many times in 4 days.
Yeah, and I don't want to pick one thing. So you get this, and you get this, and I get this. We all share, and we had 3 things.
Do you have a favorite food? Like a favorite?
No.
No?
No, I don't think you do. Yeah. I mean, and during the week, like, I eat to be, like, nourished. Like, I could eat a grilled cheese and a salad every day. I really don't care. Like I said, I love good food, but, like, yeah. But I would probably pick Schwartz's. So previous to my credit union career, I worked at Schwartz's. Like, they asked me if I wanted to work last week. So I still work there.
Okay.
Even if I really don't. And I would probably pick that because, I mean, kind of similar to, like, eating around our grandma's table. Like, Schwartz's is home to me. Like, when I go to Schwartz's, I want to go in the back door. Because when you go to someone's house and it's your home, you don't go in the front door. You go in the back door. So I'm always, like, when I go as, like, a patron, like, it takes all it is for me to walk in the front door. And they're like, just come in the back then. Like, if you want to walk, we don't care, walk to the back.
Yeah, what do you order there? Everything.
We share things.
We share.
We share things.
Yeah.
We
And
typically do
will-
every time we go together.
Yeah.
We'll share something.
I will say, I went with a friend one time, and she ordered the ribeye. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. Because I'd always got, like, the tenderloin or sirloin tips, which is fantastic. And she got the ribeye, and I was eating, and I was like, and I've worked there. I started when I was 16, so I've worked there for, like, 20-plus years. And this probably was only 5 years ago. And all of a sudden, I was eating the ribeye. I was like, holy moly, I get why people come back with a steak. Like, it took me 15 years to be like, I get why people come back with a steak. Because it was that good.
Oh.
So we usually share the ribeye and the grilled shrimp.
Yep.
Okay. So you kind of stick to your.
And now Kinsley, my oldest daughter, is starting to get into the sharing part too.
Yeah.
So, and Adeline too. The youngest one too. We kind of.
It took me years to get my husband to understand why this was the only way I would.
Yeah.
He'd like order spaghetti.
Yeah.
Like, I make spaghetti at home.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
get adventurous.
Yeah. So she can come to my Zach Brown dinner.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. And where it will be a southern feast of
No, we'd probably go to Schwartz's. Like, if he's coming to the Midwest, he's getting a steak.
True, there
Yeah.
you go.
I mean-
when in Rome.
Yeah.
Zach is not coming here for dinner.
Yeah.
I love where we went with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh, that's fun. Well, that's all the personal questions I have, and then I'll do like different organizational questions, which we spoke about a little bit. But,
Okay.
Hi, Sonny.
Hi.
Thank you for sticking around. You also are involved in a ton of stuff
I am.
around this community. Do you want to talk about that for me?
Sure. So I'm the marketing manager at Premier Financial Credit Union. So I am responsible for a lot of our community activities that we're involved in and stuff like that, and our events and stuff. So, and then the chamber.
You're a board member of the chamber?
Yes, I'm the secretary.
Secretary? Okay.
The girl who can't spell is the secretary. like, don't want to be the secretary? I'm like, I can, but I can't spell.
You just have to shorthand.
Right, and Mark's like, you'll be fine. I'm like,
Yeah. I feel like the secretary role is all the work.
it's hard.
I know.
It's really, like, there's times I'm like, at a meeting, I'm like, where, like, I know, like, I'm so focused on taking notes, and I'm like, I can't even participate.
You absolutely can't. You feel like you're just too busy processing what is happening in the room.
Right.
So, yeah, and then just all that reporting back, I think people don't see how much a secretary actually, that's all the work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work.
So for Premier, I know for Country Christmas, for example,
Yes.
we submit back to you.
Yes.
that
So that's one of the events I run for the chamber. So I'm the chairperson of Country Christmas. I inherited it when I started at the credit union. My predecessor she also was involved in that. So it kind of came with the office. So a few years ago, the Lions were there, and they're like, can we move our breakfast here? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this has been like a huge goal of mine. Because we would be one Sunday and they'd be the next. And they were there, they saw the people, and they're like, why aren't we doing this together? And I'm like, so we started doing that together a few years ago. So I feel like we've really brought the community together with different organizations. I mean, there's school groups, there's civic groups, church groups. It's free. I mean, minus, if they choose to purchase something that a group is selling or come for the breakfast. And for the concert that the Lions put on, so the Nahosting Lions and the Winnebago East Shore Lions work together to put that together.
Okay.
They do charge a small fee for that that's donated to the food pantry. So it's just a bunch of organizations that come together for most part a really inexpensive day in the hosting. Yeah.
It's a perfect little family day.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I feel like I see your name in conjunction with multiple
Yeah.
things. So what are some of the other?
Well, and for the credit union, I do all our event planning there, and we love being involved in the community.
That's the point of a credit union.
It is.
Like
Yep.
learning credit union
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
and
I mean,
differences.
we're not for profit, so we return our earnings to our members in competitive rates, fewer fees, and also we just give back to the community. A few weeks ago, we have a section of the highway on 57. So after work, there was probably 12 of us that went and cleaned up the highway after work. Like it's just what we do.
Yeah.
And even outside of that, our team is great. There's Kiwanis members, Lions members, Girl Scout leaders, different city committees, church groups, and stuff like that. Like, I think everyone's involved in something in some way in the community or another.
Yeah.
So I do all our event planning for that. So I usually like to do like one event a quarter. We do Tom Pease in the park. I started doing that at Civic Park only because
What is it called?
Tom Pease.
I
You
don't
know
what
Tom
is.
Pease. You were there.
Tom Pease.
Tom Pease. Yep.
The performer.
The performer. The folk. Yep. I'm like I think you were there.
Pease. What is that?
Tom Pease. Yep.
Sorry,
Yep.
Tom Pease. Of course.
Yes.
I know. Yes.
And we
I
remember,
know.
like, when we were a
I forgot
child,
to do that.
yeah, when we were a child, Tom and
I'm sorry.
Tom and Joe Weiser are really good friends, which I learned after we started having Tom come to the park. So we always enjoyed it. And one day he was playing in like Menasha. I'm like, we got to go see him. And like, as we went to this, we drove an hour to see him. And like, the park was full of people. And I'm like, I want to bring this to Holsting because it just brought the community together. And I mean, there was people everywhere. So I learned after, having Tom come a few times, he always came to Holsting because he was really good with our principal, good friends with our principal at the time. So that's why he was always, he was there like at least once a year. So like we grew up with him.
Right.
So
Right.
we do that. We didn't do it this year because of COVID. It's so hard to know what was right and what was wrong. And I don't think Tom was really, he wasn't really doing stuff at the time either, just virtual. So we did that. We do Family Night at the Aquatic Center, which is her lifeguard's favorite night of the year because it's so busy. Like no one wants to work.
Yeah.
So we
Is that why you can't hire lifeguards? Why your sister can't find any lifeguards?
So that's kind of funny. Also, like when she started there, we didn't do it last year when you were there, and then all of a sudden, like I stopped in one day last year, and all of a sudden, like the kid who runs the front desk, he's like, "That's your sister."
Same experience.
Same experience.
Except for I wasn't. Maybe he had more underlying.
Well,
angst
yeah,
about it.
yeah. Well, I kept coming back to check on him. So I'm like, how many people? Like, because I'm working, it can only have 300 people. So like,
Yeah.
I never want to turn someone away. So I'm like, how many people? How many people? So we do. We open that up and we pay for their admission, and we did like a little snack pack and stuff, and some giveaways and stuff, and just a fun way. Once for people to see the aquatic center too. I mean, we have
Absolutely.
members all in different communities, so then they see that ad, and then I mean, I hope they come back to use the facilities and stuff on their own.
I do, and I think those services, those nights, I mean, I know the Kiwanis used to sponsor a night too, I think, years ago, and I'd love to get back to that because I do think there's also a group of people within our community that maybe that isn't as achievable for them
Right.
to have passes, to go all the time, to attend as family. It is affordable, and yet, you know, it's still out of reach. I think in this year, we've really realized how pressing resources are for certain people. And so like that you provide that for the whole community to come in.
We do.
Anybody, it's open access. That is
We do. I
awesome.
never do anything that's just for our members because it's for the whole community. That's what the credit union is about.
Yeah.
We also do the Easter egg hunt, which is
Yeah.
probably one of my favorites. I like to think I might have like officially like organized chaos. Like every year I find something, I'm like this will make it a little more like organized and
Yeah.
streamlined and stuff like that. So
Honey, it is. Children running into a field to get right. I mean,
it is.
It will be chaos.
It is chaos.
Mhm.
We always joke
Fun
it
chaos.
takes, you know, once a funny lowers his arm, it's Mark Sherry always says he's like if you come at 11:02, you missed it. It's over.
Yeah.
You missed it. So that's one of our favorite events. We love, and it's a family tradition thing for people. Like, we've been sponsoring it for over 30 years, and I know before that there were other groups. I can't quite remember the exact history if the Optimists were involved. There's another groups even before that and stuff. So, but
So cool.
and once again we get to use Civic Park, which yeah. So lots of stuff there. Yeah.
And this year now, moving into this summer, most of those events, you said for this year, there's not going to be the family aquatic.
We
Yeah,
haven't
right.
officially decided yet. We did
Oh,
do
okay.
for Easter. We didn't do the traditional Easter egg hunt. We did a drive-through Easter egg hunt where we handed stuff out to the kids. I had talked with Keel and Chilton, and I just really wanted, as a community, everyone to do the same. So if someone was going to do a traditional one, we could find safe ways to do that. If people were going to do a drive-through one, we would find ways to do that.
Right.
I was afraid that if, say, we would be the only one who did the egg hunt, there'd be so many people, and it would be hard to control then. So I just
Right.
wanted it to be united across the community, different communities, because I think it's the Optimists and Keel and Chilton that host also. So just like even in that aspect, to work together as a community and all
Right.
have the same decision and stuff.
With our adjacent communities, which
Yes.
are also, it's like we are 3 separate communities, but then we're also this like
Right.
amalgam of community. And so, yeah, I see how that overlap must be
Yeah.
a lot of work to navigate too.
Yeah, it was just fun to even be like, oh, like just different things. So I was like, well, we could use a different park, and it would be more spaced out. And the different communities like, oh wow, that'd be a great idea. Like just once you talk to people who host similar events, like just different ways they do it and stuff too, to get new ideas and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, is there any other like organizational things that you wanted to talk about or plug?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of. Unless you have any other questions, I feel like
Excuse me. No, I
covered a lot.
don't. I feel like this conversation with both of you made me understand so much more about you and how you ended up in your roles in the community. And I'm like so pleased to have gotten all that personal
Good.
insight that I, as an outsider, I don't feel like I didn't even know you were sisters.
Yeah.
And now to know your sisters and know some of your family is
Right. As I had my questions out last night, she's like, "What are those?" I'm like, "Oh, the questions for tomorrow." She's like, "You have notes on your paper?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, I was just gonna wing it." I'm like, "When have I ever? I don't wing things."
You're the old, yeah, you're the old, I'm the oldest. I like to prepare myself. What I've found through this process is it's way more fun when we wing it. Like,
It is,
I feel
and
like so many things came up because we allowed them to come up.
I
Things
agree.
that I wouldn't have had the opportunity, and our viewers wouldn't have the opportunity to learn about you. So it was so awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
I
Thank
love
you.
that you're still, April's still over off camera, so I will probably hear these on 2 separate days wearing the same outfit.
Yeah, I told her, I'm like, don't clash with me. Don't clash today. It's like a family picture.
You even coordinated?
No, she just said she'd wear black.
Oh, okay, go. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
This
you.
has been the most fun Wednesday I've worked.
They were like joking. I'm like, we should just do it together. She's like, well, I'll email her. I'm like, okay.
Oh,
I'm like, it is a fun spin on it. Like,
it is. I got my hair cut in one.
that was good.
You know, it was just like, well, what
I
can
find
do?
so much like the Salvatorian Center. Like, that's the hosting's greatest mystery.
I
need to go back and rewatch that one because I got like interrupted. But I'm like, that is like the hosting's greatest mystery, and you solved the mystery.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like,
I moved into town and felt that way. I moved into this city and people were telling me about it and I was like, I don't understand why there's so much, there's like a shroud around it. Like I didn't understand. And she just answered all those questions for me. Oh, fun.
Oh, we've lived here forever and we never knew.
I
I mean, well,
mean, you knew
little.
but you didn't know that.
right, because I worked at Willow Park for a while too, and I had residents that would go down and help sort stuff, because they could walk, and that's just what they did. And then she'd bring me back like a little critter book that she's like, I thought your kids would like this, and I'm like, fantastic, we love Little Critter, because we had just had that conversation, and well, we had these, I brought you this. I'm like, well, wait, you can get stuff there? Like,
Yeah.
What are you sorting stuff for? Like, what are you doing? But I never.
Yeah. Apparently 1 million Kit Kats or
Right.
what was it? Hershey's. Some
Hershey's,
chocolate. 1 million of some chocolate. Anyway, I thank you for watching.
Yeah.
I love that you tuned in.
Yeah. I love
have
it.
a great day.
Yeah, you do. Thank you.
Everyone, it's Renee from the Holstein Public Library. I am here today talking about a couple of books that I've recently read and recommend to our patrons. The first one is Mind Games by Nancy Mail. And this is the first in a series of a new character for the author, and it's about Kaylee Quinn, who is an FBI behavioral analyst. And when Kaylee was 14, her father was arrested as a serial killer, so this has kind of driven her whole life. And this story in particular is about a murderer who sends a poem to a reporter and describes how he's going to kill before he kills Kaylee. So it's I sat and read it in 2 sittings, so it was very intriguing, and there are 2 more at least in this character at the moment. The next one, I'm not quite done. I think you can see where my marker is, but I love this one. It's The Lost Manuscript by Kathy Bonadam. And it's basically the story of this woman who goes on a vacation and discovers a handwritten manuscript in her hotel room, and she reads it. And it's detailing a love story that inspires her to just track down the author. It's unknown, there's no author page. And it takes her on this adventure where she meets people, she does meet the author, and she learns so much about people and love and how it can impact someone 30 years after the manuscript is written. Words to describe it: intriguing, entertaining, heartwarming, engaging, charming. Definitely read this one. And then the last one, I just finished this one. It's Sarah Penner's debut novel, The Lost Apothecary. This one is set in London. The character is from Ohio and she flies to London. There's a backstory, I won't tell you what it is. But she goes and discovers a glass apothecary vial, and that leads her to discover the connection between this vial and a 200-year-old murder mystery, if you will, of, I think they were calling it the London's long unsolved apothecary murders. And it does flip back and forth between the woman who ran the apothecary and the main character. I loved it, sat down and read it in one reading. So this one again is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. Thank you.
I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it in, check it out. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking picking out a book, check it in, check it out. I'm going down to the library.